G'day, it's Clint and Brett here from Diesel Help Australia. Today I'm going to demonstrate the DC Lubricants DPF Soak and Rinse Pro along with my colleague Chris McCarthy. The reason why we're actually carrying out this clean is in a situation where you are unable to reduce the DPF pressure, which has been caused by a potential blockage in the DPF. Now, I prefer that we don't do a cleaning process unless it's an absolute severe case where you can't carry out a passive regen to reduce that build-up of pressure in the DPF. So please don't look at using this as a regular service on a DPF. It's only in the extreme cases when you're diagnosing the fault, you've rectified what the cause of the DPF blockage is, and you've attempted a passive regen and you're unable to successfully reduce that pressure. So by using a product such as DC Lubricants DPF Soak and Rinse Pro can assist in reducing that pressure without spending the additional time removing the DPF from the vehicle and sending it away for cleaning. Part of the process is, one of them is the applicator, which is an air operated gun, just like a spray gun. It also includes a tube which connects with a quick release fitting onto the end of the applicator itself, easily to use. And it also includes two tapered fittings which allow you to easily connect to the hose and then connect in onto the DPF hose as required. The kit also includes a stage 1 soak, which is the Soak Pro, which is applicable on the first part of the clean. The second stage is the DPF Rinse Pro, which is used to thoroughly flush out any of the chemical. Just simply unscrewing the top of the applicator. We're going to first of all use the stage 1, which is the Soak Pro. It's a smaller container. You completely empty that small container into the applicator. It doesn't matter if the applicator is not completely full. We have set up the right amount of fluid in the soak. Remember to discard of your bottles safely and environmentally friendly. Then once you do that up, make sure it's tight, therefore to prevent any leakages. We're then going to connect our air line, and you should have approximately 8 bar pressure applied to it. Basically that will apply to the DPF pressure hose in front of the DPF, which is a pressure side. So what you have to do is locate your differential pressure sensor, remove the pressure size hose, and then insert the applicator there. Before starting the process, we're actually going to disconnect your mass airflow sensor. The reason being is that if the vehicle runs a secondary EGR system, by running the cleaning product through the DPF may in fact cause it to suck back through that secondary EGR back into the engine. So without knowing the full history of the vehicle, whether you don't know whether it has a 2 EGRs or 1 EGR, fortunately on this vehicle it does only have 1 EGR, but we're still going to unplug it for safety reasons. We're also going to make sure you wear some safety glasses and some gloves just to ensure that you're going to protect yourself at the same time during the process. So once you've disconnected that mass airflow sensor, you have your applicator ready with the air gun hooked up to it, remembering that it only requires 8 bar. Now the benefit about this applicator, it actually stabilizes the pressure at 8 bar, so you should not have to adjust anything on your air compressor. The other important thing is when you've actually finished using the applicator with the chemical clean, is to ensure that you flush it through with some clean water to ensure the further use of the applicator, because otherwise the seals will be affected by the chemicals over time. Okay, so the other thing is to ensure that it doesn't matter whether the engine's hot or cold, it can be applied during any temperatures. First of all, we're going to make sure the vehicle's not running. We're going to apply the soak initially and then allow that to sit for 15 minutes. Then you're going to start the vehicle and you're going to run it for approximately 15 minutes. Hold the revs at 1500 RPM. The next process will be to apply the DPF Rinse Pro Stage 2. This is a 2 litre bottle. You'll find that it'll only fill up half of that container, will fill up the full applicator, and so you'll have to carry out the full process of using the 2 litre bottle. So whatever you do, make sure you don't have any left over the soak, and nothing left over of the rinse. The rinse is there to ensure that it thoroughly cleans out any of the chemical in the DPF to ensure the extended life of the DPF. If any of that chemical remains in there, it may cause damage down the track. And now we're going to carry out the process. Okay, so you'll see there, as we get the full coverage, you can see there the soak gets all the way through. Now we've completely finished using the soak, which is a stage 1 product. We're now going to allow that to soak for 15 minutes. So this is a very suitable time to go and have morning smoko. You want a cuppa, mate?
Definitely.
Okay, now we have applied the Soak Pro. Chris is going to start the engine and we're going to allow it to idle and then slowly increase the RPM to 1500, which will remain there for around about 10 minutes to enable the soak to make its way through the substrate. The soak, we're now going to refit the applicator into the pressure hose and we're going to then fill it up completely of the rinse. Now, I'd advise not to actually connect it back up to the DPF sensor immediately until we've finished the complete rinse. That'll enable any excess liquid to run out of the tube, thus preventing pushing back into the sensor. Righto, now we'll start and run the vehicle and we'll run it for 15 minutes at 1500 RPM, gradually increasing from an idle speed. That just ensures that it gets gradual heat in there, enabling the product to do its job. Okay, well that wraps up the cleaning process while you've got the vehicle in the workshop. The next step is to plug in all your sensors and plug in your scan tool and make sure there's no codes present. Clear all your fault codes. There's no reason to do any adaptation at the time. What you can do is now take it out for a 20-minute test drive. We prefer to do it in a passive regen mode, which is holding the RPM, maintaining a speed of around about 80 k's an hour, 1800 to 2200 RPM. Probably the best thing is not to give it too many RPMs, just keep it steady. And by that time you should be able to see on your scan tool your pressures have dropped and your temperatures are maintained on your DPF. Once you finish that process, you can readapt your DPF if you prefer. It may not be entirely required at every time. Only if sometimes there's a current DPF code in existence, then it might be a need of readaptation. Now, to help your customers in the future to maintain their DPF vehicle, but this is not for every vehicle, this is particularly people that are not driving adequately to the conditions of what a diesel requires, particularly with a DPF filter and in extremely cold climates or short trips as some of the applicable times where you need a product such as the emission detox. Okay, so we have the DC Lubricants Emission Detox Pro for diesels, and there is actually also one for the Emissions Detox Pro for a petrol engine. So some of your later model petrol engines also have their own style of particulate filter for petrols. So the product itself, the Detox Pro, as I'm aware for the diesel product, is not just a good way to maintain your DPF temperatures, it's also a good way to maintain the DPF cleaning and also gives the fuel system a good regular flush. You ask your mechanic, or any mechanics are actually watching the video, mention to your customers about putting in probably every service would be more than adequate. Okay, so that wraps up our DC Lubricants DPF Soak and Rinse Pro demonstration today. And if you need to know more information on the DC Lubricants in Australia, jump onto dclubricants.au and register a trade account, or you can phone and call and talk to Rob Romano, and he can run through any queries that you require on the products.